Good afternoon, dear students. Welcome to the online class of SUPW, class 9. In the last class, we already have started the chapter First Aid. So that chapter only will be moving ahead. I'll be explaining you a few more topics in relation to this chapter. Okay. In the last class, we had discussed about how one should prepare the room for the sick, isn't it? What is the diet? What kind of diet should be given to a person who is sick? Then usually, as you all know, when you are sick, isn't it? You don't like to eat this. Such kind of food should not be given, which is having lots and lots of spices and oil. Such kind of food is not given to uh, the patient. Why it is not given? So that the digestive system remains normal. So no more work is has to be given to the stomach in order to give some rest to the stomach. So liquid diet or semi-solid diet is given, which can be easily digested by the stomach. In the last class, we had discussed about some communicable diseases. I had explained you what is the meaning of communicable disease, isn't it? That I had explained, and general control measures that one could take in order to prevent these communicable diseases. Now, before moving ahead, now we will be seeing before understanding about some other communicable and non-communicable diseases. Okay, let us see there are stages of diseases. The diseases can be characterized by three different stages. There are three different stages. The first one is incubation stage. The second stage is called as the acute stage. The third one is called as the covalent stage. What happens in incubation stage? Suppose any bacteria or any microorganism or any disease causing organism has invaded in your body or has invaded the cell of your body. So the moment it enters the body, it will not show the symptoms. You will not have the symptoms of that particular disease. Actually, what happens? These microorganisms that are disease causing, they will enter inside the body. Okay, but they are very minute, very little in number. In order to show their disease effect, they need to proliferate. They need to multiply. They need to multiply their number so that they can attack your immune system. Then in your body, your immune system also continuously fight with these foreign invaders or this foreign microorganisms. Okay, and in this combat, if these microorganisms, if they win, then only the disease is caused. So the time which is taken by the microorganisms after getting entry into the body till the time it shows its disease effect. Okay, in that time it will multiply, it will invade the other cells, it will start to produce toxins. You know what are toxins? Toxins are poisonous substances which are released by microorganisms, which will make the body diseased, isn't it? So it takes time for the germ to enter the body and start producing toxins. Thus it is sometimes for the symptoms of the disease, it will take some time to appear. This interval of time is called as incubation period. The incubation period is the time or the interval that is required to show the disease symptom. The body also prepares antitoxins. As you all know, as I told you, that toxins are released by these microorganisms, the disease-causing microorganism. So our body starts to prepare antitoxin in order to neutralize the effect of the toxins which are secreted by the microorganism, disease causing microorganism, and these are called as antitoxins. Okay, these chemicals which are produced by our immune system, it is called as antitoxins, and these antitoxins will basically neutralize the toxic effect of the toxins secreted by the microorganisms. If the body immunity system, if you are having a strong immune system, if your immunity system is very strong, Naturally, your body system or the toxins, antitoxins which will be released, that will overpower, that will empower, or they will what you can say, they will take over the activity of the microorganisms. These microorganisms cannot show its effect, and you will not be then diseased. But suppose your immunity is a bit weak, your immunity is a bit weak, and at that time the foreign invader enters into your body and starts to release the toxin. Naturally, in the combat between the immune system of your body and that of the toxins which are released by the microorganism, disease causing microorganisms, what will happen? Your immunity will lose. Once it loses the combat, what happens? Your body becomes diseased. Then what happens? The next stage is acute stage. In this stage, what happens? Symptoms becomes more and more severe. Any disease, when we talk about cough and cold, fever, anything, in what initially you will feel as if you are not well. Okay, and as the time passes, an acute stage will come when the symptoms will become more and more severe. Suppose you are having cough and cold, then what will happen? This sputum will start to comes out, what you can say, that yellow color. Okay, your your nose will start to flow, isn't it? Your eyes will become red, nose will become red. You will feel difficulty in inhaling, isn't it? So your throat will start to pain due to swelling. So these will all include the symptoms, and severity of the disease that will be increased, and the body will continue to fight against this disease. This time also the body is continuously fighting against the disease. The next one is covalent stage. See here, a misprint is there. This covalent stage should be just after this acute stage. So a misprint is there in the book. So what is covalent stage? The covalent stage is the time which is taken by the patient's body to recover. After you get infected, is it that you remain disease for forever? No, your body, as you know, your body immune system continuously fights. Okay, and the microorganism that has entered into your body, that also means after completing its cycle. Okay, after completing its life cycle, that also leaves the body, isn't it? So after that, what happens? Our body again becomes normal, comes to normalcy. So that time which is taken by the patient to recover from a particular disease, that is called as covalent stage. A patient takes a lot of time sometimes to recover from a disease. A person gets infected when he eats contaminated. So there are various ways by which person can get infected. Sometimes when you take contaminated food, or you drink contaminated water, or you are in contact with a person who is having this communicable disease. Okay, so there are so many ways by which you can get disease. A person may also get infection if proper precaution is not taken. Okay, nowadays now, if you see continuously, it has been government also says that one should wear mask, you should wash your hands, isn't it? Why these guidelines are given? So that you can keep yourself safe from this deadly disease, that is corona, isn't it? So the organism attacks the digestive tracts. So what happens? A person may also get infected if proper precaution is not taken by the handling patients, and if you are touching, if you have touched the utensils, their clothes, and you have not taken proper care, that can also affect your body, and directly it will affect your digestive symptoms. Okay, so let us see now the diseases which are spread by ingestion. So there are some diseases which is spread when you ingest. Somebody has written something in the chat. Good afternoon, sir. Okay, so some of the diseases which are spread by ingestion of what? Contaminated food, contaminated water. The first one is typhoid. Typhoid is a disease that is caused by a bacteria called Bacillus typhosus. Okay, Bacillus typhosus, and it is an acute infection, and usually it affects the middle age group most. Means the people who are of middle age, not children, neither the old people. Okay, sometimes it may affect all but the middle age people are mostly affected. Okay, because this is the group of people which are frequently found to move from one place to other place, and they are likely to consume different types of food, and water from different sources, so that they are likely to get infection through this contaminated food and water. You can see here, as it's written here, what is the mode of the spread of this typhoid? It is typhoid microorganisms. Typhoid carriers pass the bacillus in their bowel as well as in the urine. Suppose the bowel is passed in an open area or near a water reservoir. So the bowel defecated matter, if it gets mixed into the water reservoir and that water is being consumed by human beings, naturally all those people will get infected. These discharges will contaminate the water, milk, and food by means of flies and dust. Okay, these flies, as you all know, these flies are basically sitting on dirt and filth. So what happens? They cling the microorganisms on their hairy body and on their hairy appendages. Why? And they will sit on the filth, and after that they will come and sit on your food item, thereby contaminating your food item. If such kind of contaminated food if you ingest, naturally you will be prone to this disease of typhoid. That is why it is said that one should not eat food from the roadside vendors, because you never know what. Because when flies are sitting, you are not knowing that where was the fly sitting before. It might have sat somewhere and then it is visiting the food item. So in that case, in that way, it may have brought what this disease, this what you can say, this harmful disease of typhoid. So the flies, and through dust also the spores can fly, and that can contaminate the food and water. And brain has a normal strength. The period of this period may take days on depending upon the severity of the attacks. So sometimes the incubation period may be for a long time, means the microorganism has entered into your body, but it does not mean the microorganism has entered the body, you are diseased. Because during incubation period, what will happen? It will start to first of all multiply. It will multiply. It will increase. Once it gets its proper strength, it will start to govern the body cells, isn't it? And it will start to then combat and try to govern the immune system of your body. Once it wins the combat with immune system of your body, then it will show its proliferation, and it will show the disease effect. Got it? In this period, special attention should be paid to that. Suppose you initially you have come to know that you are suffering from typhoid. From that time itself, one should start to do. One should become very attentive, and you should pay attention towards your. You should pay attention towards your diet. You should take light diet, and the diet which is given to a sick person. Okay, rest is always very important. Rest is whenever you are sick or whenever you are ill, it is said that you should take proper rest. Normally, what rest you are taking, more than that rest, you have no physical or no what you can say rigorous activities are supposed to be done by you. If proper care is not taken, the condition may become worse. And when the condition will become worse, means you may become susceptible to various other kind of diseases, because your body is weak. When your body is weak at that time, what happens? Your what you can say, your immunity system is also weak. Okay, because it has lost the combat with that microorganism, so your immunity system is weak at that time, and this will be an open gate for other kind of microorganisms, or this will invite the other kind of microorganisms through various modes that can enter in your body and can show their effect, disease effect. Okay, that is the basic thing that you need to keep in mind. On the onset, in the form of the headache, what happens? What are the symptoms of this typhoid? You will have headache, you may have backache, then a little fever, that slow fever starts and then goes on rising by about 1 degree every minute. Little or slowly 1 degree fever will increase. Then what is the best treatment which is given for this disease? Bed rest. This one should lie on the bed or take rest, sleep for a long time. Good nursing and nutritious food. The nutritious food means that should contain large amount of vitamins, minerals, because these are protective foods and that will protect you from various diseases, isn't it? You can see the name of the medicine is given here. Chloramphenicol is the medicine which is given, which is usually advised in this case. Then prevention and control. Then a person should be isolated first of all. Okay, in a fly-proof room, such kind of room where meshes are there in the windows, the doors. In the doors also, the doors are provided with mesh. That can also be additional doors should be there in the house. Such kind of room means that room should be free from any kind of, because as you all know, these flies are the carriers. Basically, these are the carriers of various kind of microorganisms. You know that they will be sitting on the field and then again they'll be coming and sitting on your food items. That will contaminate your food item, be it water or food, isn't it? So one should get isolated in fly-proof room. Then the stools, urine, the sputum. Okay, when you take off, okay, that is called as sputum, the sputum that comes out. That should be disinfected with a strong disinfectant like carbolic acid. All the stools, and this will be also carry. This will also carry a large amount of what you can say these microorganisms. So this should be disinfected before its disposal. Clothes and bedding should be disinfected with phenyl and steam. Your whatever clothes you are wearing, the bed sheets, okay, the pillow covers, all those things should be washed properly in Dettol, phenyl, okay, or proper steam should be given. So that is the microorganism. Because steam at steam, the steam, what you can say, it has got a very high temperature. At this temperature, what happens? The microorganisms are killed. Inoculation provides immunity for 6 months. Means vaccination can also be given. That also, and only pure and chlorinated water should be given. Then boiled and pasteurized milk should be taken. The milk that should be given to the person suffering from typhoid, that should be pasteurized milk. You know what is pasteurization? Pasteurization is the quick cooling. First of all, the milk is heated to a particular temperature and immediately it is cooled down. This is so the sudden change in the temperature kills most of the bacteria present in the milk. Okay, so the milk becomes all those microorganisms that can cause disease. They are killed. The patient should drink this not only boiled pasteurized milk but also boiled water. Food should be wholesome and clean. What is this wholesome food? Wholesome food means that what is the grains, whole grain, yes, like barley, then oats, all these things can be given. Anti-fly measures must be taken. Anti-fly measures means heat can be used. Then what mosquito coils or coils which are repellent to the insects. Then there are some various kinds of machines which are available, electric machines which catch the flies and the insects, isn't it? All these things can be are the measures in order to prevent the room from the entry of these flies. Next one is cholera. Cholera is an acute infectious disease. It gets means one person gets infected by the other one. It's the disease of alimentary canal which is attacked by the a germ called Vibrio cholerae. The name of the causal organism for cholera is Vibrio cholerae. It usually spreads in summer and autumn months. In summer and autumn months, usually it spreads. What is the mode of spread? Again, the mode of spread is contaminated water, milk, and food. When the food gets contaminated, okay, the milk or the water, when it gets contaminated, okay, the germs reach the intestine. Suppose once somebody consumes contaminated water or the food which is contaminated by this Vibrio cholerae, what will happen? The germs of Vibrio cholerae through your alimentary canal will go and start to reside in your intestine, and there only they will proliferate. People attending to cholera patient may also act as a carriers. So this is a very important point that you need to keep in mind. All those people who are taking care of the sick person suffering from cholera, they can be a carrier. So they should take proper measures and control measures. They should observe, isn't it, to prevent their body and to prevent the spread of that particular disease. Clothing and other articles used by the infected person also tends to spread the disease. So the clothing and the food utensils, all those things should be separate, should be washed separate, isn't it, to prevent the spread of the disease. Flies again are the largest source of spread of infection. Again, as I told you, when the flies will sit on the field, they will collect all these microorganisms on their eggs, and they will then when they are sitting on the food items, they will. You know, if you observe a fly, you will never observe a fly sitting silently. It will keep on rubbing its appendages, isn't it? While rubbing its appendages, what happens? All the eggs or the microorganisms, okay, whatever it has collected from the will, that it will drop on the place where it will sit, thereby contaminating the food. What are the symptoms of this cholera? Cholera is characterized by severe pain in the abdomen. As I have told you that this Vibrio cholerae, the causal organism of this cholera, it moves through your intestine and resides in your intestine, and that is in the abdomen. And when it proliferates, okay, it starts to disturb the normal flora and fauna of your stomach, isn't it? And it will start to make lesions or wounds inside of your intestine, isn't it? Due to which you will have severe pain or abdomen pain will start. Then vomiting, you will have a vomiting sensation. You may vomit also. There may be cramps in the legs, and you may have large amount of thirst, great thirst. The stools are like rice water and will lead to dehydration. Means watery stools the person will pass, and there will be loss of water due to continuous loss of water through watery stools, or the body will get dehydrated. In that case, immediately this solution of that ORS solution is administered. What is the prevention and control for this cholera? First of all, again, the patient should be isolated, then disinfected. The stools and the urine should be disinfected, or the discharges and it should be burned. Then disinfect the bed linens and the floor of the room. Protect food from flies and dust. Vaccination or inoculation has to be done as advised by the doctors. These will include some preventive measures. The water should be well chlorinated, as chlorine kills most of the germs. Okay, potassium permanganate may also be used to clear these vegetables and all. Okay, then water can also be maybe clean, because these are some disinfectants which are mild in nature, and even if it is consumed by human beings, that will not create any problem. So food should be well cooked, not kept in the room after cooking, and food should not be open. When suppose it is open, it may be what you can say, it will invite various kinds of microorganisms on it. As cholera is a filthy disease, cleanliness is, as you all know, cholera, how does it spread? It spreads through filth, through dirtiness, isn't it? So the basic thing is to look after sanitation. Proper sanitation should be, or proper care for sanitation should be taken, isn't it? So this is all for today. I think in the next class we'll be moving. I'll be explaining you about a few more diseases like polio, isn't it? Smallpox, whooping cough, isn't it? That we will be doing in the next class. So whatever I have explained today, please revise it. Okay, there are a few points. You all know the most important thing that one should follow is sanitation, isn't it? Means cleanliness of your body, cleanliness. That the first chapter that you have seen. That this correlated to this chapter. How it is correlated? Because the first thing, the most important thing that you need to keep in your mind is sanitation of your body, sanitation of your surrounding. Furthermore, one should take proper care to prevent the food items from getting contaminated. Means one should not consume contaminated food. Suppose any food is there which is lying open for a long time, such kind of food, even if it is not smelling, still you should discard that food, because that food may become the inviting place for many kinds of, you never know whether flies has come or sat upon it or not. If it is open, isn't it? Then what other things you can do? You can prevent yourself from eating what you can say fast food from roadside vendors. I'm not saying that you should avoid all this. Don't stop eating all those things. You can eat if it is, if you can see those things are immediately or freshly prepared in front of you, and then freshly things are given to serve to you. That you can take. You can go in a good restaurant. There you can have your all these good meals you can have. Okay, but wherever this food is open, okay, and one more thing, many places you will find cut fruits which are cut, they are keeping, and then they are selling, they are cutting, and then they, you are feeding upon such kind of food. Such kind of food, even though food is eating is very healthy, but that may also contain, if flies are sitting, that will be a problem that may create a certain kind of diseases. So you will find most of the diseases that we will be studying that is contagious in nature, that are basically spread through contaminated food and water. Okay, so stop consuming contaminated food and water. Naturally, you can prevent yourself from these communicable diseases. And once, suppose you have got yourself your body disease, you can prevent this. You can prevent yourself from going out. You can by isolating yourself, isn't it? And that will prevent the spread of the disease. So this is all for today's class. I hope that whatever I have explained, you have understood. See, this SUPW is nothing to learn. This is to understand basically. Okay, and if you have understood the things well, okay, you can imply that in your life, isn't it? All those things which are being told here, that should be useful. These are things which are socially useful to you. Okay, that may be helpful to you for your life, as well as it will be helpful for you when you educate others. A time will come when you will educate your children. Okay, suppose you become a teacher, then you will educate your students, isn't it? Or you can educate the society. When will you educate the society? When you are educated, when you know all these things, then only you will be able to spread the knowledge. Okay, so that is the basic what you can say principle of this SUPW, and that is why this chapter is included in your syllabus. Got it? So this is all for today's class. I'm winding up the class over here. Have a nice day ahead. Goodbye.